In 1972, a young British prince took off in a small plane. Minutes later, he was gone. This is the story of a royal who loved flying, fell in love with the wrong woman, and died before the world really knew him. Prince William of Gloucester was no minor royal on the fringes. Yet he is often overlooked. He was the eldest son of Prince Henry, the Duke of Gloucester, one of King George V's sons, and that made William a first cousin of the future Queen Elizabeth II. But William didn't grow up to be a stiff, distant figure in sash and medals. Friends and contemporaries remembered him as a real-life Prince Charming, a keen cricketer and footballer who loved the outdoors and adventures. He studied history at Cambridge, then spent a year at Stanford in California, soaking up a different, more modern world. William was a new kind of Windsor. Educated, international, a thrill-seeker who wanted to serve but also to live on his own terms. He worked in the diplomatic service, posted to Lagos and Tokyo long before it was common for royals to have normal jobs. Had he lived, he might have become the modern, adventurous prince the monarchy desperately needed. Instead, his life was cut short, and the way it happened says everything about the risks he was willing to take. To understand why he was drawn to those risks, we have to go back to the very beginning, to wartime Britain. Prince William Henry Andrew Frederick was born on December 18, 1941, at a small nursing home in Hadley Common, Hertfordshire. At the time of his birth, during the midst of the Second World War, he was fourth in line to the throne. His father, Prince Henry, the Duke of Gloucester, did not witness the birth. He was away on military duties, taking considerable risk on him. King George VI promised the young William's mother, Alice, that if anything should happen to her husband, he would become William's guardian. William spent his early years at Barnwell Manor in Northamptonshire, a country house with stables and fields, where photographs show him playing in the gardens. In 1944, William was joined by a younger brother, Richard. The following year, his father was appointed Governor-General of Australia, and the household moved to Canberra. For 2 years, the young prince grew up on the other side of the world, watching his father represent the crown in a distant Commonwealth nation. From the start, he was woven into the traditional standards of royal life. In 1947, at just 5 years old, William walked up the aisle of Westminster Abbey as a page boy at the wedding of his cousin, Princess Elizabeth. Later, he would watch that same cousin be crowned queen. Back in England, William went to Wellesley House Prep School in Kent and then to Eton College. Reports from the time show him not just as another royal pupil, but a keen cricketer, a determined footballer, and a boy that seemed much happier in the fresh air than sitting still indoors. By the time he left Eton in 1960, William was now a charming young prince. Tall, strikingly handsome, and a future that seemed laid out for him. Beauty, titles, and a lifetime of carefully planned royal appearances. His next stop was Cambridge, where he studied history and earned his Bachelor of Arts in 1963. Then came a decision that would change him forever. A year at Stanford University in California. For the first time, William was far from royal estates and courtiers, living among American students who treated him less like a prince and more just like William. The West Coast in the 1960s was a world of freedom, cars, sunshine, and new ideas, and he loved it. It showed him that a different kind of life was possible. William didn't want to be just another royal ribbon cutter. When he returned, instead of settling straight into royal engagements, he joined the diplomatic service. Postings to Lagos and Tokyo gave him something the traditional royal script never really allowed for: real work and real responsibility. In distant embassies, he could be a young man in a suit, not just His Royal Highness. In Tokyo, he would meet Susie Starkloff, a Hungarian-born woman, older than him, divorced, with a child, and very much not the sort of partner the palace had in mind for a prince. But for William, she was his own Cinderella. The couple knew perfectly well that their romance was unsuitable by royal standards. Nevertheless, he took her back to Britain, where his parents warmly welcomed her. William's true intentions, however, remain unclear. In a 1972 interview, he made comments about marrying someone suitable for a prince. By the early 1970s, his father's failing health forced William, as the eldest-born son, to return to Britain and manage his estates and take over his royal duties. Unlike in other royal stories, William was a family man who deeply loved and adored his parents. Besides that, William also had a passion for flying. He owned several aircrafts and was the president of the British Light Aviation Centre. By the summer of 1972, flying became a part of William's identity. He often took part in amateur races and air displays. On August 28, 1972, William traveled to Halfpenny Green Airfield near Wolverhampton to compete in the Goodyear International Air Trophy, an aircraft race that had drawn tens of thousands of spectators. His aircraft that day was a yellow and white Piper Cherokee Arrow. Beside him sat his friend and fellow competitor Viral Mitchell. William had already flown the plane that morning, and lining up for the race must have felt like a familiar ritual. Checks complete, harness fastened, engines up, and the eyes on the runway ahead. Just before the start of the race, the wind direction changed. Officials switched to a different runway, and the pilots were told that after takeoff they would need to turn left as quickly as possible to slot into the new race circuit. It was a small adjustment on paper, but one that meant making a tight turn at a very low altitude. William's plane accelerated down the runway and lifted into the air. Moments later, as it began that steep left-hand turn, the angle of the bank grew too sharp. At such a low height, there was almost no room for error. The aircraft lost lift, dropped towards the ground, and its wing clipped a tree just beyond the airfield boundary. In an instant, the plane flipped, struck an embankment, and burst into flames. Around 30,000 people were at Halfpenny Green that day. Some at first thought the sudden plume of smoke was part of the show, until the reality became horribly clear. Fire crews and rescuers raced to the scene, but there was nothing they could do. William and Viral were both killed in the crash. The prince was just 30 years old. News of the crash reached the royal family within hours. Prince William of Gloucester was the first of King George V's grandchildren to die, and his loss hit the family hard. In fact, his father was in such bad health, his mother decided not to inform him about the tragic death of their son. In the decades that followed, William's story faded into the background of royal history. He left no children, no dynastic legacy, and his place in the line of succession was quietly taken by others. When another Prince William was born in 1982, many were quick to notice the echo in the name. The two men would never meet, but in some ways the younger William's role as a modern, approachable royal is the life his cousin might have lived. What do you think? Did the younger William take over the role of his relative? Let me know in the comments down below.